Puja Gurudev, add one more name tonight, if you're joining us for the first time. Om Tapasvine Namaha.
Om Tapasvine Namaha.
Om Tapanashanaya Namaha.
Om Tapanashanaya Namaha.
Om Tirthaswarupaya Namaha.
Om Tirthaswarupaya Namaha.
Om Tejasvine Namaha.
Om Tejasvine Namaha.
Om Dehatitaya Namaha.
Om Dehatitaya Namaha.
Om Dvandvatitaya Namaha.
Om Dvandvatitaya Namaha.
Om Dridhanishchayaya Namaha.
Om Dhrutanishchayaya Namaha.
Om Dharma Samsthapakaya Namaha.
Om Dharma Samsthapakaya Namaha.
Om Dhimate Namaha.
Om Dhimate Namaha.
Om Dhiraya Namaha.
Om Dhiraya Namaha.
Om Dhairyapradaya Namaha.
Om Dhairyapradaya Namaha.
Om Narayaya Namaha.
Om Narayanaya Namaha.
Om Nijanandaya Namaha.
Om Nijanandaya Namaha.
Om Nirapekshaya Namaha.
Om Nirapekshaya Namaha.
Om Nisprahaya Namaha.
Om Nisprahaya Namaha.
Om Nisprahaya Namaha.
Om Nisprahaya Namaha.
Nispraha, these scholars. I'll tell you, see if you get the feel of the word. The words have feeling. In your own language, all the words will have feelings for you. But when in some other language, then you can't have feeling with those words, you know. So, Spriha comes in Bhagavad Gita many times. So, see, scholars Nispriha, without Spriha. Nis is Nir. One of the previous days I told you Nir. Yeah? Without. Nis and Nir is same. Because of Sandhi only changed to Nis. The original is Nir. So, Nispriha, without Spriha. But so what is this Spriha? I'll tell you one nice thing, which is how you understand Spriha. You know, when you're cleaning shatain, and you don't put oil in your hand, then that shatain sticks. Huh? So that's sticking on, clinging on, that thing is called as Spriha. Sticking on, clinging. So when we see anything in this world, we stick on like that. We cling on to that thing. And we say, "Anything cling on to me." Eh? But we are clinging on to that thing. That clinging on to that thing is called as Spriha. So he calls Nispriha, without any Spriha. Doesn't cling on to anything. So, Nisprihaya Namaha. No Spriha. One who walks, you see, like when a bird flies through the space, there is no trace. Nothing. Doesn't attach to anything in the space. The bird just flies and nobody knows where it's passed. As we fly through this world, like magnets, you know, we pick up all sorts of things going along the road. So you know, you leave a trail because something missing here, that means you passed it. You see? Nisprihaya Namaha, Puja Gurudev. So that idea is, Bhagavan also is talking in Bhagavad Gita that we have to give up this spriha that we have, clinging on to things. Okay. So now, Gita Dhyanam already chanted. those people who were not here, they missed it. Gita Dhyanam chanted by all the chicks who were here. And now we'll get right into this Bhagavad Gita. No, when we left it last night, that would have been verse number 13. Finished? Finished number 13. You have to see from number 14. Let us chant, and then I'll tell you with some introduction and some recap. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Ananya Jita Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yona, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Bhavatitya Punarjanma Dukhalayam Shashvatam, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Narovanti Mahatmanah Samsiddhim Paramam Gata, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Abrahma Bhuvanalokaha Puranartiyojuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Maupekya tu Kauneya Punarjanmana Vidyate, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagavan is speaking about death, if you remember from last night, in this chapter, and he's talking about the art of dying, and we told that the art of dying really is the art of living. If you live properly, you will die properly, and dying properly means what? It means die in such a way that we don't have to die again. But, we die in such a way that we come back into this world and we die again, and we come back into the world again and die again, And before we die our hair also, and we die our clothes, die all kind of things. You know, we are good at dying. So, we are supposed to die in such a way that we don't have to die again. That is the idea. So, last night when we left it, we were saying about, bringing the prana. I told you in the path of yoga he touched on. Bring the prana up from the lower parts of the body, bring it up to the forehead, and then through the Brahmarandra in the head. He talked. So the prana has to leave like that. Then that person merges with God. The life force. Prana means the life force. So we went into that thing. Om iti eka aksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran, if you remember. And see, he uses the word Om. Om. This Om comes in Bhagavad Gita a few times. Om syllable. Om iti eka aksharam brahma. Om is Brahman, the absolute reality. Vyaharan, while leaving this body, mam anusmaran, if you remember Bhagavan as Om, as Brahman. Yaprayati tyajanteham sayati paramangatam. He wishes the supreme state. While dying, while dropping the body, he chants Om as God. Remember, Om as God, absolute reality. Alright. Now, we also said that thing is not possible unless one has been doing that one's whole life. You think how in this world, how people die. People die thinking about their children, they die thinking about their house, they die thinking about their business, their money, their bank account. They die thinking of, or if not that, they die thinking, when Yamadut comes, what could happen to me? When Yamaraj comes or Yamadut comes, what will happen and where I'll go? So these are different ways in which people die, and some others die unknowingly, in sleep. He dies in a state of tamas. Sleep is a state of tamas. And one man died in sleep and he didn't know about it till the next morning. So, how people will die and any which way, see? But what is being related here is dying in full consciousness. You have to see the movie on Bhagavan Shankaracharya. His father died like that. And full awareness means bringing up the prana and all that and living in a conscious way. Then only that person reaches the absolute. Anybody who doesn't die like that, see the next verses will tell just now. When he doesn't die like that, what happens? But he continues now in the verse which we chanted today. Ananya cheta satatam yo mam smarati nityashaha. Nityashaha means all the time. Who? Mam smarati. Yaha mam smarati. One who remembers me all the time. Satatam, keeping his mind. Ananya cheta, in this state. What is ananya cheta? It means without seeing any difference between oneself and God. Because all religions teach, I tell you, religions have psychologically abused human beings. Religion is the biggest psychological abuser of human beings. Religion makes us think all sorts of stupid things, I tell you. That God is in the sky. That God is looking down on us and he has a thunderbolt or something there, and if you play bad, taram. All sorts of psychological abuse religion has done to our psyche. Bhagavad Gita is the text that will rectify all of these things, remove all of these foolish ideas that have been pounded into, and see, one good thing, Hinduism is wonderful because Hinduism has the means, the texts, the gurus, the traditions to free us from all of that thing. Though Hinduism is also guilty of that psychological abuse, but has in it the means to also free us from that mental prison. And there are many wonderful traditions, strands in Hinduism which can free us from that. Bhagavad Gita is one of them. What is being spoken about here is really an all-pervasive God, a God that is part and parcel of me, that has never been apart from me, nor have I been apart from. Right? That is the Lord which is being spoken about. And he says, the one who remembers that, which means to say, I am part and parcel of God. God is part and parcel of me. We have never been separated. It's called Ananya Cheta. There is no otherness. Anya means other. See, I am here, God is. Then He is other than me. That is Anya. So the word is Ananya, without otherness. Never feeling that God is far away. You know, one of the questions that were raised that day when I did see, moksha is such a lofty thing, and when I do some little action, how is that little action going to contribute to me attaining this great lofty goal and all that kind of thing? Anyway, moksha is the closest thing to it. There is nothing closer to us than moksha. So imagine that which is my own state, the littlest, the finest of action, if it is done properly, that thing can free me then the smallest of action has the capability of freeing me. Because moksha is already my state. See, we saw previously, I told you, in the third chapter we saw, coming on to the end, Bhagavan talks about 3 types of barriers, and that example which he gave there, and he talked about the smoke and the fire. Then he talked about the dust and the remember that verse? The dust and the mirror. And he talked about the baby in the womb. How all of them are covered over. So the smoke covers the flame. You don't see the flame, you see smoke. The other one, the dust covers the mirror. And the last one is the womb covers the baby. So see the different type of examples. The smoke which is covering the fire, one bright flame. You see so nicely. Then the dust on the mirror, it wouldn't go. You have to go and get a cloth and some more effort is required. And that baby in the womb, covered over the womb, well, we can't do anything, you just have to wait now. Isn't it? What you'll do? You just have to wait. So Bhagavan has given different examples like this to show. In different minds, this is how the absolute reality of moksha is covered over, veiled. So in some mind, just a little effort only, little effort. And some mind, well, can't do nothing, you just have to wait. When you explain something to somebody, and after he listening with his mouth open. You're supposed to listen with your ear open. He listening with his mouth open. When he's done now, when you're done explain, he say, huh? Like nothing ever. Now what you will do? You just have to wait. So different types of, so the idea is moksha is already our state, and so easy. So easily we can remove like I said, the smallest of things could remove this veil. Or it could take the biggest of effort also and still not be removed. Just have to wait. So going on, thinking that his Lord is part and parcel of me, and I am part and parcel of him. Ananya cheta satatam. All the time we have to think like that. Tasya aham sulabha partha. O partha, I am easy of attainment by such a person. Easily I will be attained. See, sulabha. Durlabha means difficult. The opposite of it is sulabha. Easy. Nityayuktasya yogina. This one who is constantly thinking of me as part and parcel of himself, that person can attain me very easily. And now, many people have this question, and it came up already, and Bhagavan is again touching it because this is the topic which is going on. When I die now, when a person dies without attaining God, what happens to him? So one who attains God, what happens? And one who doesn't attain God, what happens? He says, Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam na apnuvanti mahatmanaha. This great person, he doesn't come back in this world again. He merges with me. Mam upetya, mam upaetya. Having come to me, punarjanma na apnuvanti. He doesn't gain any second birth, not second birth, further birth. Na apnuvanti. What is the second birth characterized? Dukhalayam. See how this life which we are all living, how Bhagavan is calling it? Dukhalayam. Alaya means abode. Alaya. Shivalaya. Like that. Vidyalaya. Himalaya. All the words you know. Alaya. Abode of snow. Himalaya. So Alaya, Dukhalaya. This world. Welcome. Welcome to this world. Dukhalayam. And this is Ashashvatam. That means temporary. Temporary, like that thing. Doesn't remain, doesn't stay. Fleeting, that is the idea. Says, na apnuvanti, that person doesn't gain Mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gataha, those people who attain to the highest state. But what about those who don't attain to the highest state? Then, brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartino Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, punaravartinaha means they come back. And punaravartinaha means coming again and again. Punarapi jana, we all have heard this verse. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. By speaking about there, same thing is being spoken of. Punarapi jana. Punara means again. Punar punaha. Punaha. Again and again. We take birth, come back into this world. And he says, if Brahma bhuvana lokaha. From Brahmaji, who is the one who manifests this world, all the way down to Pipili, a little ant. From Brahmaji all the way down. All take birth again. Because over any period, there is always one Brahmaji who is presiding. He is also one taking birth. Brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartino Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, again and again come back into this world. But next line, mamupetya to kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. But the one who comes to me, who merges with me, there is no rebirth. This is the fundamental philosophical teaching of Hinduism. The one who merges with God doesn't come back into this world. The one who doesn't merge with God, samsara waiting to give some blows, all type of blows. Now, until there, one topic is there. Now it is Brahmaji who we just talked about, How long does he exist? You see, because he also comes back, How long does he stay and when does he go and all that kind of thing. And all about time. Because and let me tell you how this topic comes in here. Please pay attention to this. This is a philosophical thing. Time and death, they are one and same. You think about it. Yamraj is also called as Kal. One of his name is Kal. Means he is death itself. Because every tick of the clock, every tick, it is time. Time in Sanskrit is Kal. So every tick of that clock, we are dying. That part we are sure. We are not sure if we are living, but we are sure that we are dying. Every tick. And don't try to stop the clock because nothing will happen. If you stop the clock, I will not die. No. When we say tick of the clock, we mean metaphorically. Every moment that passes, we are dying. So time and death, they are one and same. So the topic which is being talked about here is death. So now time comes into this whole thing. Now see this from verse number 17. Shri Krishna Sharanam Namah. Shri Krishna Sharanam Namah. Shri Krishna Sharanam Namah. Shri Krishna Sharanam Namah. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahadya Sahasrayuga Paryantam Ahadyad Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vido Janaha. Those people, Viduhu, know about the night and day of Brahmaji. Night and day of Brahmaji described here. Brahmaji, who is the one who manifests this world, how long is his night and how long is his day? That is being described. And what happens to the universe and the world and all that. Because it all involves coming and going, death and the turnover, you know. So Brahmaji is Ahad. Ahar, his day is how long? Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. Sahasra Yuga. Sahasra Yuga means, see, one yuga comprises of these 4 parts. They call as Satyuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kal Yuga. These 4 parts, right? And when you join up all these 4 together, you get 4.3 million years. 4.3 million years. Right? Satyug, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kal Yuga. Kal Yuga is the shortest of the 4. Kal Yuga is just that last 432,000 years. The last one. The other one, like more than 1 million years and all, like that, right? But anyway, when you join up these 4 of them, you get 4.32 million years. Now, 1,000 of those, that is 4.32 billion years. That is 1 day of Brahmaji. They're trying to stretch your mind to think about. And how long is his night? How long is his day? Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. His day, his night is just as long. So what happens? When Brahmaji wakes up in the morning, he sleeps whole night and he wakes up in the morning, right? When he wakes up in the morning, the whole universe start becoming manifest. Everything doesn't become manifest immediately, you know. It starts becoming manifest, part by part. And that manifestation goes on for the whole day of Brahmaji, which is how long of our time? 4.32 billion years. That manifestation goes on for that time. And in the evening time for Brahmaji now, time to sleep. So he goes to sleep, then the whole manifestation again becomes demanifest, slowly, just like that. And he sleeps for how long now? So the whole thing stays in that state of avyakta, means unmanifest. So it stays for manifest for 4.32 billion years, and it goes into unmanifest for another 4.32 billion years. And this is how it goes. Vyakta, avyakta. Vyakta, avyakta. For Brahmaji, there is just 1 day and 1 night. But for us, in that period now, how many times we take? But because if your birth, well, on this earth at least, your birth lasts 80 years, right? Well, you divide 4.32 billion by 80. Maybe just give a very good average of 80. Because everybody don't live 80 years. And that's human being. If you're born a mosquito, every 2 days you're born. Butterfly, how long they live? Every 2-3 days you die, and so in 4.32 billion years, how many times you... This thing is unimaginable, isn't it? And some creatures live very short time, some live longer and all, right? And then we don't know. See, on our earth, this is what goes on. You live for this amount of time. In other lokas, and if you are born, you maybe live for a longer time. Why? Shorter time. The laws in different lokas are different. So, those people who know time, they know this. And he says, avyaktat, vyaktaya sarvaha, from Brahmaji's avyakta state, his sleep state, when he wakes up, all things start becoming manifest. Vyaktaya sarvaha, all become manifest. Then, prabhavanti aharagame, means they come forth when his day starts. This is what is being told in the verse itself. When his day starts, everything starts manifesting. Then, Ratragame Praliyante. When he goes to sleep, all things go into avyakta, unmanifest. The world starts disappearing. Manifest and unmanifest, I told you, there are technical terms in Vedanta, the Upanishads, and Gita, and Vedas and all. Manifest and unmanifest is that those two words are used to describe the cosmic process which we are subjected to. We are all subjected to a cosmic process which you like it or not, but it is there. And everything in the universe is subject to this law of going into unmanifest and coming back into manifest. Everything in the universe. Right? So you don't have to worry, nothing is lost. Nothing in the universe is lost. It just goes into unmanifest state, that is all. So, every individual thing is subject to the law, and the whole universe in toto is also subjected to the same law. Manifest and un. So what is being spoken about here is the whole universe in toto. But every individual thing also is, so you see, this thing was not here before. It was unmanifest. Now it is manifest. But do you think it will stay manifest forever? No. It will not be in this visible manifest form forever. At some time it will become unmanifest. Crushed to dust by the great advent of time. It will not be there. So like that, the whole universe plus every individual thing. Like you and I, we became manifest just a few years ago. Isn't that? But we will not stay manifest for long. We'll all go into unmanifest. And let me tell you, those who you want to go into manifest, they don't go. And those who you don't want to go into manifest, they go. You see, the law is not in your hand. The law is a universal law which is outside your power, you see. So, tatra eva avyakta sanyake. That when it goes into unmanifest, that itself will call us avyakta. That is what Bhagavan is telling. He says, bhuta gramasa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate. All the whole multitude of beings, bhuta grama sa eva ayam bhutva bhutva praliyate. Again and again we come into this world, and again praliyate. They all go into unmanifest. And you see, it is this manifest state when we come here now, as a manifest now, this human being, we are born. Manifest means born. Other way to say it. We are born here. And then all the sorrows in between. Ratra agame avashaha partha prabhavati aharagame. This is the operative word here is avavashaha. Avavashaha means helplessly. Not within our power. We come and go. You didn't ask to come here, you asked? You didn't ask. You found yourself here. The other thing is that you can't ask how long you want to stay also. Not in your hands. You came by some other force, and you will also leave by some other force. Avashaha. Avashaha means uncontrollably. Totally outside my hand. Forcefully. Against my will. All that. Opartha. So we are coming and going all the time like that. Coming and going. Parastasmatu bhavaha anyaha avyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navinashyati. But, my dear Arjuna, I am talking about all beings being manifest from Brahmaji and again going into Brahmaji, becoming demanifested, right? Brahmaji. So, but Brahmaji and this whole universe of manifestation, unmanifest, go back into Brahmaji, manifestation, going back into Brahmaji, like that. That, which when we say it comes out from Brahmaji, we call the universe as manifest, Vyakta. When it goes back into Brahmaji, it is called as Avyakta, unmanifest. But he says here, there is some higher unmanifest, higher than this, that we call a Brahman, the absolute reality. Because even in Brahmaji, there will be variations when things start manifesting, right? The variety starts manifesting from Brahmaji. But the absolute reality, which is called here as Nashyatsu Navinashyati, which is the imperishable thing among the perishing things. Sarvabhuteshu Nashyatsu Navinashyati, the imperishable thing among the perishable things. That is called another Anya Avyaktaha. In other words, he's just making some distinction in how the word avyakta is used, imperishable, what you call unmanifest. So now, see, two types of unmanifest now. Please pay attention to this, all technical things. When the mango tree goes into the seed state, so you have a mango seed in your hand, right? Now, inside that mango seed, there's a mango tree or not? But if you open the seed, you see any tree? Now see, at the same time, there is a tree. At the same time, you cannot see it if you open it. So there is the presence of the object, but the presence is in an unmanifest state. Because you can't deny the presence. Because when you put the seed in the ground, the tree comes up. So you can't deny the presence of the tree in it, but also you cannot show it or see it. That cannot show it or see it, that is called avyakta. Right? So that which cannot be seen or shown, that thing is called as avyakta. But that is still different from the absolute reality, Brahman, which also cannot be seen or shown. So there is the unmanifest state of finite things. Finite things also go into an unmanifest state, like the mango tree going into the seed. So you can't see it. So that is one avyakta, but Brahman, the absolute reality that is all pervasive and infinite, that also is avyakta, means unseen to these eyes. That's anya avyakta. That's what the verse is. This has a different avyakta. That avyakta is called as Brahman. This avyakta which he is talking about in these few verses here, that is called a Brahmaji, into whom all the universe merges and from whom it all comes. And in the final analysis, you see, after you've done long years of philosophical reflection, you realize in the final analysis they are one and same. But that requires a lot of vichar, a lot of atma vichar for you to understand that they are one and same. But right now he's making distinctions so that our intellect will be able to comprehend the nature of this world. How they will be one and same. You see, it is, I gave you some example before, like a crochet piece made out of thread. So when you look at that, you see a picture of variation, variegated things in that picture. Cow and grass and tree and bird and, right? But at a deeper level, the cow is the same as the tree. So at a superficial level, cow is different from tree. When you look at the crochet piece, there's a cow, there's a tree, there's a grass, there's a cloud, there's a bird flying. So at that superficial level, say, yes, this is cow, this is tree, this is bird. At that superficial level, there are different objects. If you look a little bit deeper, which object is different from which? At deeper level, this cow is thread, bird is thread, tree is thread, everything is thread. So I gave you this example before and I told you, you see, it is all in how you look. If you look at that object with difference in your eye, you'll see the tree is different from bird, is different from cloud, is different from cow. But if you push your vision a little bit deeper to see beyond the cow and the tree, to see the thread, then you realize, well, there is no difference between any of them. So the same thing which is happening here. At the superficial level, we are saying, well, there is a Brahmaji who has all this variety in him, and then he manifests the variety and demanifests the variety, manifests the variety and demanifests the variety. This is what he is doing all the time. But that Brahmaji, if you look a little bit deeper into him, he is made up of Satchit, Ananda, and all the things which are in him, they are all made up of Satchit Ananda. So it's all in how you look. It's how deep your mind can penetrate into this whole mystery of the universe. And that's why you have to go on doing Atma Vichar. Philosophical outlook, or philosophical vision, or metaphysical vision is not something that you develop just like that. You have to go on reading, thinking, studying, pondering, reflecting, doing Atma Vichar, we say. Just like that. That is why the rishis and sages, they are giants of intellects, you know. They're not just like, that's why Gurudev also used to insist that you must get some degree before you come. That getting a degree opens up your mind. When it is open now, you come there, you can open it further. If it doesn't close, you come with no key. As much as it tries to open it, there nothing happens. A lot of thinking and vichar is required, and the degree does that. So, here he is speaking about another avyakta, which is Parabrahman, the absolute reality, which is also unmanifest. And he said, and there's a nice phrase, a very famous phrase, ending the verse there, Nashyatsu na vinashyati. Nashyatsu means the perishing things. Among the perishing things. What is not perishing in this world? Everything is. But among the perishing, there is navinashyati, something that doesn't perish. Something that doesn't perish in this world. That thing is called as Satchidananda, Brahman, absolute reality, God, self, whatever name you want to call. Yes, avyaktaha aksharaha iti uktaha. It is called as the imperishable reality. The imperishable reality. Tamahu paramam gatim. And is also said to be the supreme goal. This is the goal that we are supposed to seek through all of this spirituality and all. Yam prapya, having attained which, nanivartante, one doesn't come back to this world. Tad dhama paramam, that's my supreme abode. But yam na prapya, that having not gained, that which having not gained will come back. That is the idea. Is having gained that supreme abode will not come back. But having not gained it, well, cast back. That's why we come back crying, you know. We all come back crying. Only the human being, eh? The other Tiriang and all, they don't cry, they just come happily. Tiriang means? What is Tiriang? Animals. Tiriang actually is a class of animals. Whose spine like this? Which spine? Any spine like that is called Tiriang. Eh? So they don't cry when they come. In 2 minutes for us, get up and they jump and they're happy to what? When this human being comes. And if you don't cry, what a preface to life. Only if you cry, you will. If you don't cry, we'll make you well. Yeah, they never will cry, yeah. You see? So, avashaha, we all come back forcefully because we didn't gain that reality. But tad dhamma parama mamaha, that's my supreme reality, having gained which yam prapya and narivartante. So what is being spoken in this section is about that time going and coming. And the reality in relation to all this. Now, he introduces, I told you now, this section from 7 to 12 is Bhakti Yoga, predominantly. And I said also, you can't have Bhakti Yoga without Jnana, and you can't have Jnana without Bhakti Yoga. But it's predominantly in Bhakti Yoga. Now see, that is clearly stated in the next verse. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Purusha Parapata Hatyara Yasvaranyaya Purusha Saparapartha. That Parapurusha which is being spoken about is Anya Avyakta, the supreme reality which is being spoken about. Bhaktya labhyastu ananyaya. It is to be gained, or it can be gained by Ananya Bhakti, a phrase which will come up in the next chapter also, in 9th chapter. Ananya Bhakti. I just told you about Ananya word. Ananya means there is no feeling of otherness between myself and God. I want you to pay attention to these things. Look here. People say that in the Bhakti Marg, there must be Anyata. There must be Bhakta and Bhagavan. Isn't it? The Bhakta is a devotee of Bhagavan. So Anyata, there is me and there is he is other than me. This is not the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. The teaching of Bhagavad Gita accords very much Bhagavan Shankaracharya and Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi. And the teaching that you will see there is what? Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. Iti Bhakti, Bhagavan Shankaracharya describes Bhakti as Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. Bhakti really, in the final analysis, is coming to be with one's own self. Because the truth of the matter is, let me tell you, the truth of the matter is, and you may jump high and jump low and say this and say that, but in the final analysis, the truth of the matter is, you love yourself more than you love even Bhagwan. You could never love anything which is apart from you as much as you could love yourself. You may try as hard as you want, but that is the truth. So bhakti in the final analysis is really loving the self in your own self. And you love the self of your own self. That is Ananya Bhakti, which is this phrase which is coming here. So this is this phrase being introduced here for the first time. Ananya Bhakti. See, please identify that in your, those of you who are serious students of Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya labhyaha tu ananyaya. That is the phrase which is it. So, but you have to put it to Ananyaya and Bhaktya. Third case it is given. By Ananya Bhakti. That reality, God, supreme reality, can be gained by Ananya Bhakti. That Bhakti which doesn't see any difference between myself and God. Yasyanta sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. That reality in which all things dwell and yena sarvamidam tatam, by which the whole universe is pervaded. That reality is called as the absolute reality, Parashapurushaha, Parapurushaha, and it can be gained by Ananya Bhakti. The exercise of thinking that God is not separate from me. This is when spirituality starts casting out all the psychological abuse of religion from the mind. Well, religion for countless millennia has been teaching God is there, God is there, God is some other place, remote in time and space. So that God is the one in whom all beings dwell, and in whom and who dwells in all being. That is what it is. Yasyanta sthani bhutani, the resting place of all beings. Yena sarvamidam tatam, and that Lord is the one who pervades all things. Every single thing. This is coming in the second chapter also. So, that reality, It came in the 7th chapter also. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Vasudeva is everything. Maya tatamidam sarvamiti will come in the 9th chapter again. This over and over the Lord goes on telling. The same one Lord is there in all things and all things are there in Him. No, that the remoteness of God is one of the greatest psychological abuse that we have all suffered. The remoteness of God. That thing we have to eradicate from our mind. Remoteness in terms of time and place, both. Yatra kale tunav. No, the topic changes again now from this verse. People ask question, is there a right time to die? People ask also a question with regard to death. Is there a right time to die, wrong time to die? This, right and wrong time to die. Secondly, people ask, there's a phrase in Shastras, a word in Shastras, which come quite often, that is called Akala Mrityu. Tulsidaji also uses this phrase, Akala Mrityu. That is untimely death. That's how we translate it in English, untimely death. So people ask this question all the time, can I die before time? Or some people can die after the time. Like I know my grandfather, he reading all of this patra and all of this thing, right? So I say, what are you all reading this thing for? He said, well, this thing will tell you about your future. I say, so you read yours? Yeah. I ask him, well, how long you will live? He tells me he will live 82 years. According to his patra. He will live 82 years. 88 years he's still there. Right? Yeah. So I gone by him again. I said, hey, tell me you will live 82 years. Look, now 88 years, you still there here. Huh? He said, well, Bhagavan, give me some extra time. Because of all the good karma. So, when people hear this thing, we say, well, there is really no allotted time to die. And the same Shastra which is saying there is an allotted time and your time written on your forehead, the same Shastra says, there is a person can go before time or a person can go after time. It appears. Look here. That is just a misunderstanding of the phrase which we encounter in Sanskrit. Akala Mrityu. Akala Mrityu means the person had an untimely death. He died before time. There is no such thing as die before time. You just have misunderstood the meaning of the word Akala Mrityu. When you're dead, that was the time. There is no such thing as Akala Mrityu. The idea that has to be understood when you see that phrase is this. Please pay attention to this. In the different yugas, people live different length of time. So in this Kali Yuga, in the period in which we are living, the allotted time is 100 years. It means around 100 years, give or take. But the idea is people live such bad lifestyle that their karma only warrant that they live 70 or 80 because I am living such a bad lifestyle. And then my karma now makes it that I only live till 80 years. So it means to say I didn't live the 100 years which I expected to live in this Kali Yuga. But that is based on my karma and that is determined when I come. And when that karma says I have 80 years of prarabdha to go through, when the 80 years of prarabdha is finished, I am gone. And there is no such thing as going before or going after and all. When I go, that was the time that was allotted. You can't die before time. Then, Yamraj's itinerary will be messed up. Suppose, Yamraj, see, it is written, Bhal pe likha hai. He says it. For it is already written there. Well, you're supposed to go. So you're supposed to go on this date. Yamaraj have that in the itinerary already, right? So coming to pick up you, right? Yamaraj coming to pick you up. Then on the way he see a next man. He said, man, today I'm not feeling to go all the way to Sangha Gandhi. I got to take here, I didn't care. I got to take here, I didn't care. You know what happened? That man was not supposed to go, you were supposed to go, the whole thing messed up now. So when you could take this man now? No, this whole thing is all set out very nicely, and when that prarabdha is over, and see, your prarabdha will be over at an allotted time also, because, like for example, for your prarabdha to get over, you have to meet this person or marry that person, and then that all this prarabdha karma will work out and all that kind of thing, right? So, when all that thing work themselves out, it is time to go. And that will work itself out only when you meet and when all the things fall in place. And it happens by precision, not just, the world doesn't happen just haphazardly like that, nothing. Everything happens precisely. So, there is no such thing as akala mrityu and all that. That means what you understand by untimely, die before time and all that kind of thing. That was the time you were supposed to go. That word is referring to the state the human being has brought their karma in this Kali Yuga. That we cannot even live to the 100 years. But why? No, you see now. I'll give you a simple example. We are not living to the allotted time because of our own karma, meaning what? Look, I don't eat the right type of food. I live in an industrialized society where I'm working throughout the night, all kind of thing, right? Producing, consuming, and I'm running after things of the world. I'm not taking care of my health, no exercise, I'm eating junk food, all the other kind of, breathing all carbon monoxide in the air. And who doing all that? Who putting carbon monoxide in the air? We are, isn't it? And look, who producing all the junk food? Not the producer, the consumer. Isn't it? You think now? If nobody bought, they will produce. If your tongue wasn't so sweet, they will not produce. So who producing it? Tongue. Because there's a demand, so there's a supply. That's our karma. So there's a demand for the junk food. Eat. Or you only 100 years. Breathing carbon monoxide, staying up in, and young people just stay up whole night and sleep whole day. You reverse all the process of nature and all that kind of, how you will live. And we know better because we find ourselves in the whole midst of we don't know, we just find ourselves doing it. And then nobody to sanskarize us, put good sanskar, teaching, discipline, this, that when we are small, nothing. Because they parent themselves in the same boat. Because of all that, our own karma, we can't live the 100 years. So we died before. So that is called akala mrityu. That is how the phrase has to be understood. And not that, this fella come into the world and Yamaraj say, he could take him when he had 8 years, but he take him when he had 8 years. If Yamaraj itinerary was like that, this world would have been in chaos. Okay, so now this type of topic is going to come here now about right time of dying, wrong time of dying, and this portion is highly metaphorical, I must tell you. Metaphorical. You can't read this portion of Bhagavad Gita literal and all that kind of thing, because it is talking about sun and moon and fire and going in this time and going in that time and the dark side of the dark 6 months and bright 6 months. We'll see that tomorrow in Manzanilla.